Welcome to Attention Retention with Jackie McManus, your source for the latest trends in transportation recruitment and retention.
And now, back to the Tim Ridley Show.
It is 36 minutes past the hour. This is Tim Ridley on Sirius XM Satellite Radio. It is time for Retention Attention with our good friend Jackie McManus. Jackie, good morning to you.
You?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing great. Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, happy Tuesday to you as well. It's always great to have you on, and always a lot of wonderful things that you have on the table for us in terms of sharing what's new on your end with your clients in the trucking industry and what they're doing or thinking about doing for our drivers. But first, let's throw out your question to our listeners this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. My question to the listeners today, and as always, being on the show, has been so helpful to talk with drivers and find out how they got into the industry. But more importantly, this topic, I really want to learn more about why drivers are staying with their current trucking companies. Are there recognition programs that are doing? Is there certain praise that you're getting from your current carrier, or is it just steady miles, or you like the dispatching team? I really want to learn more about why drivers are staying at their current carriers right now. And the reason why, Tim, is, we're seeing a little bit drop in turnover rate across the industry. I mean, not by much. Granted, we were at a very high rate years ago, but we're seeing that, a lot that you and I have talked about and that's been implemented with carriers. They're really focusing on keeping drivers versus that turn and burn that was so relevant for so many years. And it's encouraging to see that carriers are really trying to, hold on to drivers that are treating them right, obviously. And not every job would be a great job for the right person, but trying to make that match work a little bit more. So, I want to hear from drivers exactly, why they're staying at the current carrier.
All right. Why are you staying at with your current carrier, and what are they doing special to keep you there? Our number is 615-292-6366. And also you can send your reply or your weigh-in by email, tim@radionemo.com. Well, Jackie, what's new on the horizon, or what's coming up, or what's new that's been implemented with your clients in terms of keeping their drivers?
A lot of clients now are thinking of ways of how to recognize each driver in their fleet, and not only monetarily recognize drivers, but you're seeing a lot of fleets, take their sign-on bonuses and turn those into retention bonuses, and that's actually that's really what a lot of these sign-on bonuses were for so long. They were sign-on bonuses with these crazy figures, but you'd have to stay in the company for 3 to 5 years, right? And so they're turning them more into retention bonuses. And with that, at the same time, they're trying to figure out how do they recognize the driver more to make the driver feel appreciated while they're out on the road each and every day. And it's not an easy task. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, but it comes down to really, praising the driver for the good that they're doing out on the road, and communicating that to the internal team. And we're finding that more leaders are getting involved. Instead of, maybe not getting involved at certain levels, the owners of companies are really getting involved more one-on-one with the drivers and learning everyone's name and really trying to make a better workforce overall, because as you and I know, and as all the listeners know, it starts from the top. And so you're seeing a lot of leaders now take that example and take that really seriously so that they can really make that transcribe throughout the whole organization. And so I think that's really optimistic to see because, hopefully with that, we're going to have more better trucking companies that are going to, treat their employees better, and the organization or the industry as a whole can continue to grow.
Well, that's good. And any improvement makes, even if it's the smallest improvement, it makes a difference right there. And in terms of recognition or whatever the case is. And you were mentioning about the reduction in turnover rate, why it may not be much, but again, on the same token, any little bit helps, as far as in your turnover rate too. Not only for the driver, it helps a lot, but it helps for the company as well because I remember when I was in recruiting, I think it was like somewhere around $8 to $10,000 just to bring one driver on. So if you lose a driver, bring a driver, so it's costing you money.
Yeah, and with that dollar amount, Tim, that's where we're seeing companies saying, how can we reward the driver back with what that would the cost of recruiting actually be for us? And that goes in line with that recognition. Maybe it's annual bonuses or safe mile bonuses. To figuring how to tie in the profit into the driver. And usually the proof is in the pudding. And, to your point too, it does take time, but it's great to see that steps are being made. And, just one quick story, I could tell you this, 3 or 5 years ago, all we were talking about is getting more drivers, recruiting. But now, with the PTA and the HA, the major organizations out there, it's all about how can we retain the driver. Yes, we need to recruit too, but how do we treat the drivers better? How do we treat the warehouse workers better, the people technicians better? And those are those baby steps that we like to see because we're seeing more companies get on board with that and trying to make an impact with their company directly.
If you figure out how to retain, it will reduce the need for recruiting, won't it?
Absolutely. Nailed on the head. I'm going to have to write that down.
Yeah, we'll patent that term right there, okay? That phrase, rather.
Yeah, and you spin off now. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. Well, we're going to pull over and take us a break. Our number is 615-292-6366. And I'll share this email with you, Jackie, on the other side of these messages.
All right.
This is Tim Ridley along with Jackie McManus on Retention Attention on Sirius XM. Retention Attention with Jackie McManus. What keeps you with your company? What are they doing special that makes you want to hang around with them? Well, I'll tell you what one of our road dog brothers said. He says, hi, Jackie, good morning. It's always great to hear your voice on the air and the things that you bring to us. I agree totally, 100%, and then some. Well, he really agrees, doesn't he, Jackie? with what you said about recognition.
Everywhere I go.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And he says, with the recognition, what keeps me with my company is because they have a very good recognition program. Not that we're looking for a pat on the back every time you turn around, but an attaboy goes a long way. And he goes on to say that his company rewards the drivers periodically throughout the year with gift cards and other gifts, which makes us feel really appreciated. So, again, that does go a long way, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, if you look at, most, other industries, there are so many companies out there that actually, do rewards programs where, maybe it's a free Starbucks gift card or a Dunkin' Donuts or a Love's gift card, or, a pack of 4 to a local amusement park. When companies look at adding up dollars and cents, and we put that against Tim, that $8,000 to $10,000 per driver, it's minimal, right? So, really just taking the time to figure out what your drivers are interested in and, giving them a form of recognition is huge. And I know my company, I'm a big advocate, and my father-in-law taught me this. He was a CEO of a very large company, and he said spot bonuses. And basically, throughout the year, if you see people that are doing a really good job, they're going above and beyond, reward them unexpectedly. And, that alone, that philosophy has, our company has grown quite a bit. And, I like to think that employees are pretty happy, but they're getting recognized, not only is it verbally through praise and sharing that praise in front of other colleagues in our company, but, monetarily as well. And I think to that driver's point, not everyone's looking for an attaboy or pat on the back every time you turn around, but any form of praise in value is the number one thing that companies really, if they're not doing it, they need to get on board, because that recruiting number, that $8,000 to $10,000 per employee, could be a lot higher, because they'll have a heck of a lot higher turnover rate.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And another thing too, and I have another email as well, but I'll get to that in just a little bit. But another thing too that I found when I was in management and in trucking and management, that I would ask, periodically, I would ask our drivers, what can we do to make life easier for you here? What can we do? What would you suggest, and how can we make things better for you? And I would see their eyes, if we were in person, I could see their eyes light up like it was a big sigh of relief that somebody cared enough to ask, what can this company do to make my job easier, to make my life easier?
Isn't that something? And just asking that question, Tim, alone, of course, as a driver or an employee of the company, you're like, oh wow, this company cares. They want to understand exactly what they can do to make my situation a little bit easier, and that's really cool. And last episode we talked a lot about how a lot of companies where they had folks that had their CDL or carry their CDL, such as yourself, and then became into the management position, they just understand the position more, and they know what it's like to go out there and be a driver. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And those are the companies, Tim, to be honest, that we're seeing a lot of progression with, is when one of the management people have, one or more have CDL, because they know exactly what it's like to be out on the road.
Yes, they've been there and they know firsthand what it's like. They can relate, absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, Jackie, this next email is from one of our Road Dog sisters out there, and yeah, and so it's good to hear from her. She says, what keeps me with my company is their sincerity. They are honest, they are fair, and they're willing to work with you if you need to get home. She states an example in here, and she says there was a time when an emergency came up, and it was last minute. I had just picked up my load and got underway, and I received a phone call. I couldn't take the load because I needed to get home. I called my company, and they said, we'll do whatever we have to do to get you home, even if we have to fly you home. And she says that alone made a big difference with the way that she felt about her company.
Wow, that's a great company right there. Going above and beyond to make sure that, her personal life can be sorted and handled. Business is business, but family and personal life does trump all that. So that is really great to hear. And it always goes back to, Tim, that honesty and sincerity. Isn't that, there's so many different ways that you and I can talk about this, but it always goes back to those core values of a company, and if they're really showing that, not just saying it in the ads, right?
Right.
But are they showing the driver, the proof is in the pudding? And that right there, that's an example of a company that truly values their driver and wants to make sure that they can support them in any situation that they come across in life. And, you know, we're all going to go through these types of situations in life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and having an employer that actually supports you and will do their best to try to accommodate you is absolutely key. It's critical. And so I love that. I love hearing that because it just shows that there are companies that are really, really trying to make that transition into keeping and retaining their current workforce.
You know, you're so right. And I don't know what her situation was, but, you know, I can only just imagine what it was or just assume what it was. But, you know, when you have a regular 9-to-5 job, and if you get, you know, if something happens, or if you get a call where, you know, someone passed away, or, you know, a family member, or someone is in the hospital, or was in whatever the case was, it can be bad enough, you know, when you are there in the same city. But what's worse is that when you're miles and miles, hundreds of miles away from home, and you get that call.
Right.
And for a company to lighten that burden for you makes a big difference right there, because you're already burdened down. But then to have a company that cares so much that they say, don't worry about it. Even if we have to fly you home, you're going to get home for this situation.
That's so true, and Tim, that's such a great point. It's the 9-to-5 job. You're maybe in the same city, the same state, but with drivers, they're, you know, thousands of miles away. That's a game changer. That's a totally different you know, severity to the situation. Is how quickly can I get home to my family and loved ones? And should the company offer to fly her out and make it an expedited trip for her? That alone makes me believe that she might be at that company for quite some time, for sure.
Yeah, that made an impact on her right there.
Mm-hmm.
And have time to get one more in. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your road dogs out there for sending these emails. You know, your weigh-ins via email, and I know some of you are not able to call, but you still took the time to send these emails in for Jackie. And again, we certainly appreciate that. So this one right here, he says that it took me, let me start from the beginning. He says, good morning, Jackie, I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
He says that it took me 22 years to find a company that I can say that I'll be there until I retire. It's a medium-sized company, but you could tell from day one that they really cared about the drivers. They believe in retaining as opposed to spinning the wheel and processing drivers in and then out the back door. The average tenure here is 15 years. So that's the average. That is really, that's good.
Wow.
And
wow.
he says he says, I can't think of anything wrong that they're doing, but they do a lot of things right. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I will stay here until I hang up the keys. Well, brother, I appreciate you sharing this with us. And Jackie, what we're going to do is roll to the phone lines because we're almost up against the clock. We got a few minutes, so let's get Lady Garfield in. Lady Garfield, good morning.
Right.
You're live on the show with Jackie.
Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Well, I'm with a new company, and all I got to say is that I'm really impressed with them. One, they flew me first class out to pick up a truck, put me through orientation and everything, paid for all my meals. 3 days after I left out, I accidentally went and cut the tip of my finger off.
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness.
I've done that before, too. It's not fun. It's not fun.
No, doesn't sound fun.
And, I mean, everybody in this company and everything, every couple of days they're calling me and they're asking me, do you need to go see a doctor? Do you need to get to the clinic? Is your finger all right? And everything else. And I'm like, okay, one, I used to be an EMT. I knew what to do. And thanks to the manager at Fat Brothers, she just happened to be an EMT. When she gets off, she goes and plays EMT.
Oh,
between her and I, we knew what to do. Yeah. I mean, all the stars lined up right when it happened.
Yeah, and so from day one, they made an incredible impression, and then when there was a personal situation, they truly followed through on their word. Isn't that right?
Yeah, they're following through everything. I mean, even yesterday, Stacey called me and asked me, is this finger healing up right? Do you need to go see a doctor? Is it getting infected? Do you need stitches? And I went, everything's doing just fine. I mean, it's healing up really good. And, well, do you need to go get it checked just to make sure? And, I mean, I'm really impressed. If I don't feel good, I'm tired, go to bed.
Wow.
And they deadheaded me. They deadheaded me all the way out of Pennsylvania down to the house to be able to get my stuff, which really surprised me and paid me for it.
Yes. Is that right? Yeah, that's a company right there that you'll probably, you'll think you'll stay with for a long time because you know what, that's the minority of companies out there, but it's so exciting to hear that that's what companies are doing because they're going to be the game changer, and they're going to set the precedent in how drivers deserve to be treated, and that makes me so happy to hear, Lady Garfield.
Absolutely. Lady Garfield, we're praying for you and pray that you're doing well and doing much better. Thank you so much for your call. Jackie, thank you as well. You have yourself a wonderful week.